If you've been following Newfoundland and Labrador music, theatre, and multimedia performance art since, I guess, the mid-1980s, you likely know our next guest. Liz Solo has created and fronted many bands, including the Liz Band and the Black Bags. Liz is also a co-founder of the Black Bag Media Collective and a mentor to many emerging alternative artists. Liz lives in Toronto these days, where she continues to create forward-thinking art. So, to catch up with all this, I'm joined now by Liz Solo, a.k.a. J.E. Solo. Hello.
Hi, Heather. How are you?
Good. So now a lot of our listeners know your work through music and stage and screen performance. Can you tell me a bit then about the kind of work that you're doing in Toronto right now?
My big project up here, I'm working in VR, virtual reality, which is something that has been an interest for a long, long time. But recently I've graduated into the full-on headset VR. And I'm working with a colleague in Vancouver, Dr. Jeremy Turner, and we're exploring trying to create non-player characters, our current project, or standalone characters in a VR environment called Neos that are imbued with a kind of artificial intelligence that gives them the ability to create art. So in my case, I'm looking at poetry and music, and my colleague is exploring different ideas. But we're, scratching the surface of some new stuff. It's very basic, but so working with artificial intelligence in virtual reality and exploring now the idea of quantum computing, which is still really in its infancy, but you can actually access quantum computers now to pose complex questions. So I'm now trying to learn about how to frame questions as a programmer would. It's very hard, actually. But so I've been exploring that up here. It's been really, really exciting, really interesting.
Can you give me an example? I'm trying to wrap my head around how like a creative entity in VR that you're working on looks. Like, what happens?
Well, the thing about some of these social VR worlds, and that's where I like to work, so it's a little different from a gaming environment. Social VR worlds are often built by their users. So in this particular world I'm in, it's totally customizable by the user. So I can spawn a world or create a world at any time and make it anything I want. Of course, I have to learn all the ins and outs of the tech, how to work with the code, how to create objects, texture objects, make them do things. So an NPC or a non-player character can be as simple as a floating sphere, that has some kind of interactivity. I'm creating right now, I'm working with a sort of a sea creature kind of the ghosts. It's like a haunted place. So I'm creating ghosts of underwater creatures, ghosts of whales, and one of them is going to emerge as my artificial intelligence that will create music and recite poetry to users that it encounters. My colleague is creating a sort of oracle kind of character. And I'm not quite sure what its interactivity is going to be, but it's something that has a kind of oracle quality. So a non-player character can be something totally unrecognizable, or it could be something in a human form. It could be a rabbit. And then through the programming, and in the case of this, the programming will be external. We've had to hire a programmer to funnel this artificial intelligence into the game. And so people will enter a world or an environment, and there will be entities there that will interact with the user. And so our basic concept is meta creation, to have an entity actually create in and of itself. But like I said, it's still pretty basic, still very ground, getting in at the ground level, working this stuff out. It is very technical, which it is quite challenging. But just to talk about VR for a second, I don't know if you've ever had the experience of a headset VR environment, but it is absolutely mind-blowing how immersive it is. I'm used to working in 2D environments on the web. I've been doing performance and installation in there for many years. But you have an outside view. And when you are in VR, you are completely embodied, and it's just a stunning experience. It's very hard to describe, and we do have people into the studio, of course not now, but before COVID, to look at things and try things. And people seeing VR for the first time is wonderful to watch, because you can't really describe it. It's kind of scary. It's taking over your brain in a sense and changing your perception of reality and telling you you're in a reality that's virtual, and your brain believes this. And that's what the brain sees. Essentially what VR is stereoscopic viewing, just taken into the digital realm. So there you go. That was a bit of a rant.
No, well, that explains it a bit more. And I'm just wondering, though, if you're into creating entities that can be creative themselves, do you have any concerns about virtual reality taking over the work that you do?
Well, yes, this is, in a sense, in a little bit of a way, the point. And it's something to explore. It's like that would be, what would that mean? I mean, I am interested in that question. I don't have the answer to it, but I'm really interested in that question. But my last theater piece was kind of about this, too, that, all of this technology that comes from this is of us and is human. Even if it becomes something with a mind of its own, it is still of us. It is still human. But that is an excellent question, one I do not have the answer to, except to say that, yes, I do have a concern about it. Yes, I am aware of it, and I am exploring it. And I don't really know ultimately what it means, but I can't help myself from going there.